Okay, this is going to be another unscripted one. I don't know if I addressed this one. This one was about something I heard on the FANTI podcast the other day. 2 weeks ago, there was a movie. Oh gosh, my names are blanking on the Travell. I think it was Travell was the one who was talking about it. And I don't remember positively the name of the program he was talking about or where it was on, but I think it was called My Love. It's a new series on, I don't know, someplace like Netflix or Amazon or HBO Plus, Disney Plus, something. And the story plot is this man is whoring around on his wife with other women. And I haven't seen it, but from what it's talking about, from what Travell has said, it seems that there's multiple people he's whoring with. And he's African-American man, married to a white woman, and he's having affairs with only African-American women. Now, Travell took issue. What he found problematic about this was his who he's whoring around with. He's having problematic relationships with the women he's whoring around with, and so I sent him an email saying, that's the problem you're having. You're having an issue with the problematic relationships of his extramarital affairs, not taking issue with the fact that he's whoring around on his wife, and he thinks your priorities are messed up. Well, the next week he said on the podcast, he read my email, and he says, you know, if you're a white person, he prefaces it before he even reads it, the email, he prefaces it by saying, if you're a white woman, you don't need to be talking to me about telling me anything about anything. And right then and there, that pissed me off. You identify as a man, as a male. You never tell a woman to sit down and shut up. We've been told that since time began, since male and females became separate genders. And I know there's non-binary people and whatever, but as long as there's been male and female, men have been telling women to sit down and shut up. Regardless of race, of either party, women have been told to sit down and shut up. This isn't the first African-American man who's told me to sit down and shut up. And it probably won't be the last, because that's how this world is. Anyways. His partner, I can't remember her name now. I think she identifies as she. Can't remember her name. Names just elude me a lot. But anyways, she piped up too. But it's a white woman that said that. Now my profile it was Twitter that I sent this message through. So it wasn't really an email, it was a message, I guess. It doesn't show, that account doesn't show. I don't think I have any Twitter accounts that actually show my profile. And I thought, well, okay, first thing you're presuming, even though I think on that profile I have my pronouns as they, them. And they just said woman, even though that might not be how I identify. which I'm not even sure I do anymore, at least not fully woman. I don't identify as male, and I don't identify as he, him. I never will. I'll never identify as male, but I don't think I identify as fully female or as fully as she, her. I definitely don't identify as she, her anymore. And I don't fully identify as woman. But anyways, in white, yeah. If everybody knew my history, nobody would identify me as white if they knew my racial, cultural, and ethnic background. Okay, but I present as white. Physically, I present as white. But, and because of that, I have got some advantages in life, but I never got truly the white, because I was homeless for so long, in abject poverty when I wasn't homeless. So there was a lot of things at least as an adult, that I didn't, quote unquote, luck out on. And plus, being a woman, you're not lucked out on just being a woman. But anyways, my thing is, and I did respond after I listened to that episode. I responded to him saying, well, you shouldn't have just shut that down. Conversation was to be had here. But I told him, I've been harassed, assaulted, talked over, talked down to, maligned, all sorts of things as a woman. And I basically made it as, you just told a woman to sit down and shut up. And regardless of race, of man or woman, women get this all the time. And you're just another one that did it. And I haven't listened to their newest episode. Their newest episode is on non-monogamy. So I don't know if that's trailing off of what the email I sent. Maybe he thought he ought to address it, but non-monogamy, that's non-monogamy doesn't necessarily mean whoring around. Like if somebody's in a polyamorous relationship, I don't consider that whoring around. I don't think most people would, except for like the conservative, the people who are against non-monogamy, polyamory. I don't know if you can use them too. I guess it would depend on what your definition of polyamory is. And if you're in a polyamorous relationship, it might, I don't know. There's rules and regulations to every polyamorous relationship. So I don't know if the two, you could use it interchangeably or not. But anyways, I don't remember what I was saying. So anyways, that might be piggybacking off of, that's what I was saying. Maybe it's piggybacking off of the message I sent him on Twitter. Maybe this was a follow-up. But these are two separate concepts. This dude is actually whoring around. His wife does not know about his tramping ways. I mean, obviously from the way Travell was explaining it in the original, the original episode talking about the program, the wife doesn't know. So the wife cannot be approving of an open relationship. And so I'm hoping, I'm not going to listen to I'm done with FANTI. If you're just going to, you're going to put like race over gender, it's just like Roland Martin. He put the male race over the female gender. It's more important that we seek rights for African American men than seeking rights for women. And that's what Travell is doing. So, yeah, we're done with that. I learned a lot from FANTI, but it's, that no. You don't say my race is more important than your gender. You got to sit down and shut up and just put up with, because we've been putting up with that from men of all races for thousands, tens of thousands of years. And if the hypocritical part about it is, I just went off on a sidebar and I forgot my original point. The sidebar is that, you can't, the whole reason for this podcast was to educate people, supposedly, it was to educate people about the plight of people of color, the plight of the LGBTQIA plus community, help educate people on the issues that people face that may be non-conforming to the typical hetero-cisgender white male, patriarchy type thing. And it kind of veered off a little bit here and there because I think you can only do so much on each topic, before you have to expand, which I understand that. Yeah, if you're going to be hypocritical about it and say, well, LGBTQIA plus, yeah, that, we're going to stick up for them people, men of color, we're going to stick up for them, but you white women, sit down and shut up. That's the hypocrisy. There is no woman of any race that has not been told to sit down and shut up by men of every single race. It's not like, oh, women tell black men to sit down and shut up. No, women don't tell men to sit down and shut up ever, anywhere. Women aren't even given the opportunity to do such things. Women are never put in roles where they can say that because all them roles are filled by men. Historically in this country it's been white men, but now there's men of color getting into supervisor positions, managerial positions. Rarely women of any race, rarely women of any ethnicity or culture are getting in them positions. And when they do get in them positions, the men they're in charge of will say that they slept their way to the top. Now, you will never hear a woman say that about at least a straight man. You will never hear a woman say that about a straight man, or other men say that about straight men. They may say it about gay men, but not straight men. And if you were to say a man if you were to tell a man, or even say it behind his back, some people would defend that man if you were to say, oh, he got his position by anything other than credentials, nepotism, sleeping his way to the top. There'll be other men that'll jump to his defense. And I'll tell you what, I've been told, I've never been in a managerial position or a supervisor position, but I'll tell you what, even in jobs where male-dominated spaces, even the jobs I had, which were never high-paying, they were always low-paying jobs, I've been told to my face by other men, my coworkers, that I slept my way to that job, that low-wage job. They have said it to my face. So don't you tell me to sit down and shut up. Because I'll tell you, every man, I've had Hispanic men do it to me, black men, African American men, brown men, and white men. They have all said this to my face. And the only reason I haven't had any Asian men say it to me, or Native American men say it to me, is because I've not been in a space where there was enough times. I've not had enough exposure to them men to be in a position where they would have actually been able to say that to me. Right? Oh, I did want to hit that sidebar there. I think the only thing, maybe, I don't know if I already said this or not, but the point is you can't have a podcast or a media trying to promote equality if you're going to just have equality for some. It would be like Animal Farm. It would be the exact same as Animal Farm, where it says all animals are equal, and then Napoleon writes underneath it later on, but some animals are more equal than others. No, that's not how that works. There's no more equal. You're either equal or you're not. Okay, so don't tell me to sit down and shut up. I don't care what race I am. I don't care what race you are. And I talked about this with my friend a day or two ago, and I said, was I wrong about this? And she's a woman of color, and she's been there, she says, no, you're not wrong. She says, he's wrong to sit there and tell you to shut up. Men have been doing that all along. All men have been doing that all along. And she's had her own examples of it numerous times. And so, yeah, I wanted to make sure it was right before making this video. I wanted to make sure I had a leg to stand on. I was pretty sure I did, but I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't missing something. But FANTI no longer has my support. Anyway, so this here is Tom and Jerry. This bowl holds 1 gallon of liquid. It weighs, without anything in it, empty, it weighs 8.5 pounds. Each of these mugs are 1 cup capacity. This one, most of the gold, it's 12 karat gold, has been rubbed off the edge. This one has it on here, if you can see that. And that's 24 karat gold. I think it's 24 karat gold. It's gold something. Anyways, the bottom of these has Hall, made in the United States, USA. The big, I'm not gonna do that because I'm afraid to break it. But the bottom of this has the style number. It has Hall, made in the United States. And it also has the style number, model number 1089. This is a glass ladle. It's very hard to find glass ladles. The original glass ladles, you can only find the replacements because most of them have been broken. That holds 1 cup too, so you only have to dunk 1 time. You don't have to double dunk. And you can pour that and fill your glass. There's 12 of these mugs. Oh, and one more thing. I'll try to remember to put the link where I'm selling it. I'm selling it on Bonanza and eBay and Facebook. I would prefer somebody to pick it up. I can give you a really good discount. I'll sell it for as cheap as $50 if you come and pick it up from my house in Hudson, Michigan. Otherwise, you're going to pay a lot of money because I'm going to have to wrap it all up and package it. It's going to be a toughie. So you're going to be paying a lot if you want me to ship it. It's a real beautiful thing. That specific model, this is the only one I've ever seen. I've scoured Etsy, eBay, Bonanza, Wayfair, Ruby Lane. I have not found one in this exact model. Anyway, so another thing I would like to say is my partner, before I'm done with this video, my partner's boss, or supervisor, maybe manager, I don't know the difference between them two terms, is a woman. And there are men, he claims he does not say this, but I know how he is. He says stuff just to fit in with whoever. He's typical man, says whatever will fit in with the current clientele. So I wouldn't be surprised if he joins it. And he's intimidated by quote unquote successful women too. So I would think he'd probably maybe not believe it, but still think it or say it out loud because he's jealous of women being successful. Anyways, and he was raised in a household where his mother did not work and his father did work. Now, he says that his co-workers will say that his boss slept her way to the top. And I said, do you say anything? Do you correct them? Do you dispute them when they say that? And he says, no. And I says, well, you're just as bad as the person who actually says it. And I says, and there was a couple times where I told you that you had special treatment getting your job because you're white, you're male, and you had military background. And he says, well, I had the credentials too. And I was like, well, you think that woman doesn't have the credentials? But you'd get pissed off if people would say something about you that you somehow didn't get your position strictly by your own laurels. But you will sit there and let somebody else say something about somebody else being female that she didn't get it by her own credentials. And I says, and I assure you, she had to work 10 times harder to get that position. Because I'm sure they wanted to give it to a white male instead of her. Now, there might have been some quota or whatever that they had to fulfill, but they're not going to hire somebody in a supervisor position who doesn't have the credentials. So even maybe that gave her 1 extra point to get that job, but she had to have the what do they call it? I can't remember what they call it, but she had to have the credentials. So, anyways, yeah, men are very hypocritical when it comes to pretty much everything. If you were to say they slept their way to their position, to their job, or even if you said it was nepotism or whatever, it's because they were white or because they were male, oh, they just go ballistic. They'd say, I got it fair and square. I earned it. That's what my partner said. And I'll tell you what, his whole department is white. And his whole department, other than his boss, is male. So, yeah, don't tell me being a white male didn't give you an advantage over everybody else. So you want to talk about, what do you call it, affirmative action? Affirmative action has been around for white men since the United States began. Before that, it was in, Europe? In all the white areas. They already had affirmative action. It was just the way our society worked. We didn't have a name for it. That's just the way society was. But now we got affirmative action for people of color and women in some workplaces, not all. You have to meet, there has to be certain criteria before, a company even has to, some organization even has to install, what would be the proper word for it? Initiate affirmative action. So yeah, now that other people are getting in on the affirmative action, white men are complaining. They're saying, well, that's giving them an advantage. You've had the advantage for thousands of years being white and being male. You already had, you're not the only one that's getting in on this now. But you have for the last few thousand years. So don't say, you know, I get the affirmative action, you don't. Please, So, anyways, and another quick note about affirmative action when it comes to schooling. And I'm sure this is in the workplace too. Like I said, nobody's going to hire somebody who doesn't know what they're doing just because they're a person of color or a woman. But schooling, they were talking about this on NPR years ago. What affirmative action has, like white people, mostly men, were saying it's unfair that people of color are getting into colleges simply because of their color. That's not how affirmative action works. A person who, I don't know if you'd call it an enrollment officer or whatever, somebody who actually looks at, takes people's criteria and looks at it and approves or disapproves whether or not they'll be accepted into the school, says the only thing race and or gender does is give them one extra point. Like there's a point system to get into certain colleges. Some colleges accept anybody who can, afford to pay, but then, the higher up college, the Ivy League colleges, you have to get accepted in there. And they use a point system, and like your SAT scores may be a point. I don't think they use SAT anymore, but your SAT would be, so many points, and your, I don't know, whatever that thing is that you write up to get, your, I don't know what, your little synopsis narrative that you write in, that'll be another point or two. Your overall grade score would be a point or two. Was your school accredited? That would be a point or two, whatever. Well, race and or gender would only give an extra point. So it's not like a C grade, a C average person would be able to get into Harvard. That's not how it works. They still have to meet the criteria grade-wise and education-wise, whatever, to get in there. It would just give them an extra point toward, getting in there. So but white men are just exploding right now because I can't remember the saying. I should have said it. I should have looked it up. I was trying to explain it to my friend yesterday or the day before when she came over. We were talking about all this. When the people who have been in charge or reaped the advantages granted to them by, their gender or race or whatever advantage they have, realize that the other people who haven't had that advantage are starting to get that advantage. It seems like oppression to them. And all of a sudden they fear that now they're going to be the one that's going to have to live by the people they oppressed. And so they get fearful, they get angry, they retaliate, they make stuff up, they fearmonger, they throw insults, tell lies. That's why Fox News was invented, for these people, to prey on these people, to make money off these types of people. And this is where the hypocrisy shows. When the people who have had the advantage start having to be, not even losing their advantage, but having to share their advantage with people who were previously disadvantaged. The hypocrisy is that they can't hack it. Like there are white people, especially men, right now, who openly say they're afraid of not being a majority white nation. Already we've we've turned the tide, and now we're not majority white nation. And so it's very close, but it's a little bit more And, you know, we're a little bit more brown than Caucasian. And I don't like using the term white because I'm not white, I'm peach. But actually, I'm kind of like a little darker than peach. But like the white people, you know, we're not white people anymore. I'm not white. I'm not white. I got Middle Eastern in me. I got West Asian in me. I have Spanish in me. I think I have some Native American in me, but very, very little. And I have some South American in me. And my paternal grandmother, she ain't talking, so Lord knows what's going on over there. I might have a lot more involved. But anyways, I don't remember what I was saying. Oh yeah, white men especially are just openly saying, you know, a lot of them are openly saying, I'm afraid of becoming a minority. Join the club. I mean, there's a difference between not much, but there is a difference between a social minority and a legal minority. Like women are social minorities, even though we make up about 50% of the population. I think it's like 51% of the population because we have a tendency to live longer than men. But yeah, so we're not really a minority demographically, but socially and legally, we are a minority. You know, we're treated like, even though we're supposed to have equal rights, we're treated like crap by the justice system, by the police. You know, sexual harassment. Most of our cases get dismissed, and the cases that do get heard were typically usually were ruled against because you need a lot of evidence for that and to prove something like that. And then even when that happens, there's countersuits and we usually get nothing because we usually lose on countersuit. So yeah, and just being sexually harassed, being yeah, I mean, you know, the snatch and grab rape. You never hear of a woman doing a snatch and grab rape on a man. You hear of men doing it on women. I've never heard of a woman doing a snatch and grab, never. And talk about sexual assault and sexual harassment. It's mostly male to female. You know, and I don't want to hear about your, you know, 0.1% female to male harassment or assault because that means it's non-existent. It's so low, we're going to call it non-existent. You know, because like the one case that happened in the last 10 years doesn't count as a case. Well, it doesn't count as a statistic. Let's just put it that way. You know, and serial murderers, serial killers, predominantly white, almost always male, like 95% male. Actually, I think it's 97% male. So, yeah, so socially, men are the predominant, and white males are more, you know, they're the majority. So, that's what I mean when I say minority and majority. I'm talking about the social implications, the legal implications, not the demographics. Because even though we have now flipped the roles and turned the tide, and now brown people outnumber, quote unquote, well, Caucasian people in this country, they're still a minority because the social and legal implications are against them in favor of the white man. And legally, well, I could go into history and how the Constitution, you know, why does anybody but the white male celebrate the 4th of July? Because the independence only meant independence for white men. And when I say white men, I mean wealthy white men. You know, women had no freedoms. People of color had no freedoms. Poor people, no matter what race, what gender, they didn't have the right to vote. And if you don't have the right to vote, nobody listens to you. So, you know, you didn't matter. You didn't matter in the judicial system. You didn't matter you know, your representatives didn't care about you because you just didn't have the power to vote. So, and you were too poor to lobby, lobby them. So what do they care? You know, you can't pay them off, so they're not going to listen to you. And so anyways, that's just my little rant of the day. If you like this set, this is a great set to impress your family, your friends, if you're having a holiday party, Hanukkah, New Year's, Christmas, whatever you're celebrating this year, Kwanzaa. There you go. 12 mugs, 1 glass ladle, and 1 heavy 1-gallon bowl.